Well, hello there. Welcome to Jane Hogan Health. I'm Jane Hogan, the wellness engineer, and I am passionate about helping people release joint pain naturally by letting go of inflammatory foods, thoughts, and feelings so they can become empowered creators of their own health. And this show, Wellness by Design, is dedicated to helping people achieve wellness not by reacting to the world around them, but by intentionally designing a life based on what their own body needs. In the show, we explore practices, methods, and science that contribute to optimal health. So I'm really excited today to welcome Kelly Howard to the show. Kelly and I met through a course, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about Kelly. She is a serial entrepreneur who's been connecting women to their personal power and mental well-being through personal and group coaching, plus some hiking, biking, backpacking, and kayaking adventures. She has changed thousands of lives with her Fit is Freedom podcast, courses, and events, and truly believes that a life well lived is a life of freedom and health. She's the founder of Bayou City Outdoors, the largest outdoor activity and social club of its kind, and the Fox Outdoor Adventure Series. She currently calls Houston, Texas her home, but can frequently be found kayaking and traveling on rivers and trails around the world. So welcome to the show, Kelly.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
In our little chat before we went live, I found out that Kelly, who's in Houston, has actually been to Newfoundland, where I live. So that I know you're adventurous, because usually it's only the adventurous people end up coming to Newfoundland.
It's a beautiful place.
It is. It is. So Kelly, can you tell me a little bit about what brought you into the space you're working in now?
Sure. So when I was with Bayou City Outdoors, which I am no longer a part of, or I'm still a member, but I'm no longer the owner of Bayou City Outdoors. A friend of mine is now. But when I was there, what I found was that there were so many people who would come to things that we were doing, like a hike or a kayak trip or whatever. And they didn't believe that they had what they needed to do the things. Right. And I believe that we all have what we need internally to do the stuff. And I remember very specifically one person came, and it was for a hike. And Houston's relatively flat, but we have places that have a little up and down. And so this hike was in an up and down place. And what happened was, when she showed up, she had a cane. And people show up with hiking poles, but they don't normally show up with a cane. And she said to me, "I don't think I can do this. I really don't think I should be here, but I just showed up just to prove to myself that I could at least get here. And now I'm going to go walk by myself." And I said, No, you aren't. You're coming with us. And she came with us. She did great. We worked it out. We worked it out. And that is so much of what happens, is that you can always figure out a way to do what you need to do. You just have to figure it out, right? And sometimes you need someone else to help you with that. But at the end of this hike, she was so excited, vibrant, grinning from ear to ear. And since then, she has done numerous things, like numerous adventures, numerous hikes around the world. And it's so cool to see that happen. And so when I was no longer with BCO, this was kind of my passion, and not kind of my passion. It was just like this driving thing in the back of my head going, we can all do more than we do. We can all have more fun than we do. And we can just do things. And sometimes it just takes a little nudge, a little push.
Yeah. Oh, I love that, Kelly, that we are all way more powerful than we think we are. And sometimes it just takes that little bit of, like you said, a little nudge to just go, well, maybe I can do it. And then being around other people that are supporting, like you are, can make all the difference in the world.
It does. It really does help, because it's hard to be, well, let me rephrase that. I don't think it's hard to be internally motivated. It's a learned skill. It's another skill that you get. And until you have that skill, it's super helpful to be externally motivated too, because you bring those two together and life gets simpler.
Mm. Yeah, I love that what you said there about motivation is a skill, because sometimes people tend to
Mhm.
think they either have it or they don't have it, and it's not something that they can develop. But motivation is definitely a skill that you can work
Yeah.
on and grow, and then it can help you in all areas of your life. So that's one thing
Mhm.
you're an expert in, right? Is motivating people.
I'm pretty good at it. Pretty good at it over the years. But well, you know what I will say though is that a lot of times people confuse willpower and motivation. And
Yeah.
willpower, right? It's something that does run out. Like it's not a skill. It's a finite resource. And if you put the willpower to the side and learn to develop your motivation, your internal motivation, then things shift because now you're no longer depending upon something that's finite. You're depending upon something that is infinite because it's inside you and outside you.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, and totally within your control too.
it is. It
Yeah.
is. I mean, it is. And if I could say something to that, like I do tell people that we are in control of our motivation and we're in control of our actions and all those things, right? And there are times when we just need to give ourselves some grace. Like, just stop. Maybe we don't need to be 100% motivated that day. Maybe we need to just like take some time for ourselves. Maybe we need to just back off for a little while. And when you realize that it's not like crazy 1,000 miles a day every day, it's working with yourself and getting to know yourself and realizing that it's okay to not always be 100%, then things shift. I mean, we have space in our lives, and when we have space in our lives, it's just easier.
Mm. Yeah, I think accepting that perhaps you can be 100%, but your 100% might be different on different days. And to
That's
roll with
right.
that, and as you said, love the word grace. Give yourself
Yeah.
grace for that. So
Yeah.
how it's interesting. My daughter is an ultra marathoner. Like she runs
Oh,
huge
wow. How
distances.
cool.
Like last
Yeah.
fall, she did 200 miles around Lake Tahoe.
Oh, I know that. I know that race. Not
You
that
know
I've
that
done
race?
it. I have not done it, but I know that race. Yeah.
We were the support crew, and that was hard enough.
How cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Congratulations.
she's so, I love the way whenever anyone says, "Oh, you're so good," like I could never do what you do. She says, "Well, everyone's got their own level, and you do what you want to do, and whatever your goals are, and meeting your goals that's where you're at." And I think that's the
Hmm.
same language you're talking as well, as setting your
Yeah.
goals. But do you encourage people? I just want to say too, we got some people watching. If anyone has any questions for you, they can go ahead and type them into the chat and we can answer them live, right? You'd be good with that, right, Kelly?
Love to. Would love to.
Okay, awesome. All right. So, how do you go about motivating people then? Because you talked about
Sure.
intrinsic or internal motivation, how do you go about developing that?
Well, and you just mentioned goals, right? Um, and I think goals, like I am a goal setter. I am one of those people who has been a goal setter my entire life. And I also think that the place to start is not necessarily our goals, but our desires. Like if we really know what we desire in life, we really know, what's driving us and why we would want to do something, that is such a foundational piece of motivation. Because if I know that I want to be healthy, my entire life until I just, I don't remember who said it. I think it was Hunter Thompson who said, he just wants to slide in at the last minute, beat up, banged up, and gone. But if that's what you want, then my motivation becomes a little bit, um, actually, a lot more driven by that. So I know what I need to do. So
Mm,
that would be the first step.
yeah.
And and I'm going to
Interesting.
close a blind because it's right in my eye. Excuse me. Yeah.
Interesting that you talk about that, because last week I had Robert Glazer on, who wrote a book called Elevate, and it's not just about
Hmm.
health, but all areas of life. And he spoke about, and this is what we learn in coaching as well, is you start with your values, which is exactly what you're talking about. What's important to you?
Hmm.
Because then that gives you that's your guiding compass.
Right.
Help you
Right.
and motive. Well, it gives you the motivation. It gets you back on track when you fall off track, like inevitably happens. Yeah, I love that. Starting with your values, what's important to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's really the driver, and then what if you're looking down the road, like who do you want to be, right? Because if you can look down the road and see who you want to be, then that's going to also give you motivation that you won't get any other way.
Mm. Yeah, I used to do this exercise. I taught engineering for years, but it's somewhere along the way in my engineering career, I was teaching human relations. And one of the things we talked about, it was more than human relations, but we talked about writing your own obituary or eulogy. And that really gets you thinking about who do you want to be remembered as, or how do you want to be remembered? Because that gives you a really clear idea into what your values are.
Wow. I had completely forgotten that exercise, and
It's a
I've
great
done it
one.
before. It's a wonderful exercise. I mean, it sounds a little creepy, but
Yeah, it's a
it's
little
not.
morbid, but
A little morbid, but it really isn't, because when you do it, then you understand your values. When you understand your values, then you can understand, like, they are your drivers, and in addition to your values, you have drivers. Like maybe a value for mine might be freedom. Okay. So, but a driver to freedom is being healthy, being able to do the things that I like to do, all of these things, right? So I can take that value and translate it into action. And when you can translate something into action, then it becomes tangible.
yeah.
So, right? And so it's almost goal setting, but it's not, because you're, instead of saying I want to run 200 miles around the lake, which is awesome. Let's say you say that, I want to be, oh, I have one. I have a client who's, her goal is to be off all medication, which I think is awesome, right? So that's a goal. So now we have to figure out the desire. The desire for that is because it's going to make her healthier in the long run. And so then we just, from there, just pull the steps down that she needs to be taking.
Yeah, yeah, that's a common goal for a lot of my clients too, is to
Is
or,
it?
or to
Is
not
it?
not have to get to the point where they're on medication. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I really love that distinction that you make between the drivers and the goals, because the goals is sort of
Yeah,
where you want to be, and the drivers kind of give you the steps on how
they
to.
do. They give you the steps, and it's a little, it's like a friend of mine used to say, it's like a 10,000-foot view, right? Your drivers are like, they're high level, or your drive. Yes, I mean, they're really high level. Like if freedom's a driver for me, super high level. So I always have to bring it back down to, okay, so if I was going to motivate myself to have freedom in my life, what does that mean for me? Like, what is freedom?
Mhm.
And then go from there.
And then breaking it down, okay, in the next year or whatever, I'd like to do this, but then breaking it down into what do I need to do today?
Yes. Because in the end, what motivation is its action, right?
Yes.
Like I love when I work with people and I explain to them that you really need three things. You need a plan, you need knowledge, and you need action. If you cannot have any of them but one, you can only have one of those things, most of us would either go for plan or knowledge. But the truth is, if you can only have one, you go for action, because that's what motivation is. Like when you take action, then you create that movement. And when you create movement, a body in motion stays in motion, right?
Yes.
So thinking about like where you can bring those down into your day-to-day life. And I like to actually, once you bring it down to your day-to-day life, I actually like to do something a little different, which is when we're talking about like using our future. This is something I talk about a lot, using your future self, like your future self that you want to be, as one of your drivers, like the person that you want to be. You actually see that person. Well, it's it's a little nebulous if you have that person who's 2 years out from you or 3 years out from you. Um, I like to have it where you come back down to really small. Like, who is that person you want to be at the end of this week? So
Yeah.
if you can see who you want to be at the end of this week, then you know that these are the actions that you need to take. And it just becomes simpler. And
Mm,
in the end, simple wins. Like simple
always.
always wins.
Always. I love simple. It's interesting too. The taking the action builds confidence. And then as you build confidence, you take more action. It's like the woman you mentioned right in the beginning who
Right,
her little action
right.
was to just show up. And then that's all she was going to do. You helped her do that hike that day. That gave her confidence and let her keep on growing. I love
Yeah.
this whole idea of confidence. That's actually the theme for my Wonderful Fine membership this month is confidence. So
Oh, neat.
yeah, yeah,
Neat.
I love it because with confidence, all the other stuff can grow. You can just keep growing
You're
from there.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, confidence is it's a base. Like it's one of those foundational things that you
yeah,
have in your life. It
yeah,
makes everything
yeah.
easier.
But it comes from taking action.
It does. It does. It comes from just showing up. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, I remember like the first time I got on a Facebook Live. I can remember this very clearly because I was terrified. Like it took me, I don't even know how long. I would make something up, but I swear it took me a month of talking myself into getting on camera there. And it was so scary and it was so embarrassing. And then it was so whatever, right? And after that, it just became something you learn, you build up, and then it's just part of life. And that is confidence, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And being easy on yourself about letting go of perfection. That's what holds a lot
Yes.
of us back
Right.
from
Right. Back to grace.
yes. Yeah. I remember I only did my first Facebook Live just over like maybe a year and a half ago. And I was the same way, Kelly. It's like, yeah, well, what if I say something stupid and this little anyway, you just do it. You just do it
Just do
and then
it.
keep on doing it. And look at us
You
now.
realize, yeah, right. And you realize that like what you look like on camera, it's a whatever. Because we just don't realize these things because we're not seeing that. But perfection, you mentioned, is actually probably one of the biggest killers of motivation out there. Like perfection just stops everything. So it's just not worth it. I mean, and I don't want to say this word, but I'll just say pretend this word began with an S. It's the phase one, right? You just do it, and then you just keep getting better. It's
Yeah.
easier.
Yeah. And I think actually looking back on my own life, I realized that uh, being a perfectionist really comes from a lack of confidence because
Mhm.
you're so afraid of not looking perfect that you don't try stuff. And then, and actually, which comes first, I don't know, because they kind of keep going around in a circle
They
together.
do. It's a spiral.
Yeah.
It's a
So
spiral.
letting go of perfectionism allows you to take action, which then builds confidence, which means you can let go of perfectionism more. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
It is. It is. It's a good catch-22.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So you tell me about how you work with your clients and what you do with them. Because I know you're really into
Yeah.
fitness, adventure, and all that. Is that what you encourage your clients to do?
Really, it's funny because most of the people who come to me don't necessarily come for adventure, like let's go out and do a 20-day backpacking trip. I mean, that's generally not what I get. What I get are people who have always wanted to do more, but they're not doing generally anything. So what happens is that when someone comes to me, the first thing we talk about is mindset, right? Like, let's just hang on for just a second. And for those listening, I apologize, but I had an echo that wasn't working. So you start with mindset, and in mindset, it's what do you want, right? Where are you going? How is it going to get you there? then how are you going to get the motivation that's going to get you there? So motivation is a big piece, because since it's learned, we can create a plan based on what you need to actually create that motivation where it works for you ongoing. And one of my courses, I do a lot of courses too. One of my courses is called the Motivation Multiplier Method. And my thought is that if you can spend 3.5 minutes each day, or a couple of times a day if you need to actually get where you want to be, then it's a huge win. So I work with people that way also. And then we also have an accountability group. And the accountability group is interesting because motivation, or let me rephrase that, accountability will build motivation because it gives us that platform to learn what's going to work. And then once you can work together and have that all come together, then it's just you. It's a part of your life and it's who you are. And from there, if somebody wants to go do some adventures, I'm always up for that.
I like that you brought up the accountability part, because as you mentioned, that is really huge. How do you build that into a group?
Couple of ways. One way is in group coaching, we'll have like a weekly check-in. And it's interesting because the weekly check-in initially would start out with, I don't know, I'm going to make this up, but I think it was 3 people per accountability group. But what I found out was that even though people are paying to be there, even though people have said they're all in, they're not. And so the 3 become the 2, become the 1. So we had to start making larger accountability groups, and then also bring in the fact that I have learned there's 2 pieces of accountability. One piece is that a lot of times people want to have a friend be their accountability buddy, right? Get their best friend to be their accountability buddy, or their partner in life, whatever. Those are the worst people in the world to be your accountability. Do not do it, because like your best friend is going to let you off immediately. Like I'm going to be like, oh, Jane, I just didn't feel like doing it today. You'd be like, it's okay, Kelly. I love
Kelly,
you.
yeah, I
Right?
know.
I love you, but forget that. Like, you need somebody who just wants it's happening. And then your partner in life is the one who's going to be like, you say, oh gosh, I don't really feel like going for that run. Pizza, doesn't pizza sound good? Yep, I'm in. I'm all in for pizza, right? Forget that. You need people that aren't your best friends. And when people became best friends in accountability groups, they immediately started giving each other the pass. So I built the accountability groups larger, and I would drop in. And when I drop in, it's like having mom there, right? And everything shifts. I don't want to be mom, but mom works. So those are like the big pieces. And then also there's accountability within the program, like within the actual platform, and then accountability within the weekly check-ins, because people do have check-ins that they check in with that I can see whether or not they've done it, because they've got a little progress bar. So all of those things, it kind of sounds like school, right? But what it really is that as we build accountability, what we're doing is we're building trust with ourselves.
Yes.
We're just using other people to help us get there. Mm-hmm. Once we trust ourselves, and once we do what we say we're going to do, everything becomes easier.
Yeah.
Like everything becomes easier. And I know, I try and keep an eye on myself, like a lot of these things. I said I use myself as the guinea pig, and I see where I slip. And then I always try and figure out how to pay attention to that and bring myself always back on track. Because if I say, I'm going to do something, then you need to do that, because when you do, then you've now kept your word with yourself. You keep your word with yourself. Accountability becomes easier. And now you're learning motivation. It's just all tied together so nicely.
It does. It does. I love that, building up trust in yourself. And also, I think you mentioned that people can see their progress. And I think that's huge too. People love, I mean, back little kids love seeing the stickers on the calendar, and, in
Yeah.
gyms and things like that, you see people, their motivation wall and things that they're filling out. People do love seeing their progress. And I think that's part of our brain gets that little bit of a reward, and that helps with motivation then. As tiny as it is.
It's not tiny. It's not tiny at all. Like, if you come down to the very core of everything we're talking about, it's brain games, right? It is brain games. And that's like, all my motivation multipliers, if you really look at them, they're just a way to play a game with your brain to get it to do what you want it to do.
Yeah.
And in the end, we have so many thoughts that run through our head all day long, right? And if you can control just a bit of those, you don't have to control a big slice, just a small slice of those, then it works. And it's whatever works for you. And of course, like if you look at social media is the poster child for brain games.
Yeah.
Right? Like, likes, people love them. So yeah.
Yeah, I know. It really, I said simple, and it is deceiving because it's simple, but so powerful. As we said earlier.
So powerful.
Simple and powerful. So we're coming up to the end now. I've got my one last question, which I'm going to show on the screen here. So what's the one action? So I asked this question of all my guests. What's the one action someone could take today to improve their health?
Okay, I'm going to answer with kind of maybe a little bit more than one answer, but I'm going to call it layered motivation. Okay,
layered motivation.
So layered motivation. And if you could just today, to improve your health, ask yourself, why? Why do I want to improve my health? Is it because I'm going to have less pain? Is it because I'm going to be able to do the things that I want to do? Why? Just ask yourself the why question. Don't spend hours on this. Like, this is a 2-minute question when you really drive it down. Ask yourself the why. Then ask yourself, what are 3 things that you could do today? Like 3 little things. They don't have to be big. Like, they could be super little. It could be skipping that 3rd cup of coffee. It could be whatever it is, right? Just a little bitty thing. And then write it down. And when you write it down, this is a brain game. You've got 3 things. You go, instead of going 1, 2, 3, you go 3, 2, 1. Because when you go 3, 2, 1, your brain does not like open loops. And if you start with the 3rd thing, right, and then you're counting down, your brain can't stand an open loop. It's like when you're in the gym and you're on that last set of reps and you just don't think you can do it, you never count up. You always count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Same thing with this. So your 3 things, your 3 actions. Action 3 is the first one you do. Action 2 is the second one you do. And then action 1 is the 3rd one you do. And you've just created a game with your brain that will make all the difference.
Love that, Kelly. Love it. Yeah. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Okay. I know that you mentioned you have a gift that you would give out to anyone who wants to sign up. So you just tell us a little bit about it and where to find it.
Sure. So when we're doing this, it's pandemic time, right? And what I'm finding is that one of the motivation killers right now is people do not have anything to look forward to. Like, they can't plan. They can't schedule like a big trip. They don't know if they're going to go to the wedding, whatever. Can't plan. So I have created a workbook called Something to Look Forward to. And it's just got some of my favorite things to do, brain games to do, that will help you figure out how to create things to look forward to without being in the control of whatever else is going on around you.
Love it. So how can our listeners and viewers get that?
You know what? I can, if this is good with you, I can drop it in your link as soon as we get off.
Perfect. Yep. And if you don't do it, I'll do it. So I'll make sure that it's there. So that is perfect. Kelly, thank you so much for being on the show today. This has been such a pleasure. I really love your little brain games you've thrown in there too. So that's awesome. So thanks very much for being on the show.
Okay. Well, have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.